to be on it.
Why? What's in Lisbon?
Clipper to America.
My friends in the underground tell me that you've quite a record. You ran guns to Ethiopia. You fought against the fascists in Spain. What of it? Isn't it strange that you always happen to be fighting on the side of the underdog?
I've often speculated on why you don't return to America. Did you abscond with the church funds? Did you run off with the senator's wife? I like to think that you killed a man. It's the romantic in me.
It's a combination of all three.
And what in heaven's name brought you to Casablanca?
I'm a saloon keeper. The problems of the world are not in my department.
But when you first came to Casablanca, I thought...
You thought what? Why did you come back? To tell me why you ran out on me at the railway station?
We knew very little about each other when we were in love in Paris. If we leave it that way, maybe we'll remember those days, not Casablanca. Last night I saw what has happened to you. The Rick I knew in Paris, I could tell him he'd understand. But the one who looked at me with such hatred. I'll be leaving Casablanca soon and we'll never see each other again.
Don't you sometimes wonder if it's worth all this? You might as well question why we breathe. Each of us has a destiny, for good or for evil. I know a good deal more about you than you suspect. I wonder if you know that you're trying to escape from yourself. Of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world, she walks into mine. He's looking at you, kid.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Wheel of Movies. Man, I swear that if all these old classic movies were done like that, I'd be watching them all the time, you know. so yeah. Yeah, we're here. We're pulling an audible today because earlier this week it was one Chris Scott, the Casablanca Kid's birthday, and so we let him pick something he wanted to do, and he wanted to do a deep dive on Casablanca. So this will be fun. So yeah, I am your host. I'm going by the movie hero Kid today, Anderson, and yeah, I'm joined by the two guys you see here. So we have Austin first. How's it going?
Hey, no, it's good. Yeah, it'd been a minute since I watched this. The first time I saw it, I got to see it in a theater, so that was cool. But it was a little over 10 years ago, so it's been a while. But yeah, I did a really hard deep dive on it the last 2 days, and yeah, I'm ready to talk about it.
Yeah, it was. It had been a while for me. Of course, I've seen this probably a movie 100 times.
And Chris,
but yeah, I was excited to dive into this film. It definitely wasn't necessarily an easy watch, just because it's past connections. But at the same time, this movie was phenomenal. I'm glad I sort of pushed through because this movie is. We'll talk about it obviously and dive into it, but there's a reason that this is my favorite movie of all time. There's a reason that Humphrey Bogart is my favorite actor.
Yeah, and I'll just say the first time that I saw it, I went over to your house, Chris, and you kind of like did a night where you had me watch your favorite movie, and interesting because the first time, like maybe I was tired, but there's a lot of like the stuff in the middle that I wasn't really following, and I was kind of out of it. And so afterwards, like you kind of look like wanted to like see my reaction. You're like, so like, what'd you think of it? And I remember thinking, it was okay. Like
yeah, there's no like, but dude, I think it was like 2:00 in the morning when we started watching this thing. So
like, yeah, like watched it kind of late. Yeah, so I gave it a rewatch it, and it was really able to appreciate it a whole lot more and really get a sense of what the movie's actually about that I didn't understand the first time. And I was like, oh, like that's why these people are coming to Casablanca, or oh, that's why Rick and Elsa can't really be together, like all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, and like that just makes more sense now, you know. So yeah, but I was just gonna go through just a little just some like facts about the movie. I always like to kind of start off top with like the hard facts about the movie. So Casablanca is released on January 23rd, 1943. So it's proof that that there are great movies that are released in January. It's not just a dumping ground for every movie because Casablanca came out in January. So yeah, of 1943. So and also back then, January may have not been seen as that kind of dumping ground that it is now.
Well, movies had much different release schedules than they did. The movie premiered in November of 1942, and then the movies back then, they would play at a theater for like months at a time. So the theater would get a movie and play it for a really long time, and it would just went around the country to where each theater would get the movie.
Okay.
It wasn't like today where it was like a national release. That didn't happen until after Jaws in the 70s. Where movies would premiere.
So you're getting literally each movie theater is getting that film reel.
Essentially, well, I mean, they make multiple film reels, obviously, but they would ship them around regionally. So the movie would premiere in LA, usually in Hollywood, sometimes in New York as well. They would start in the major cities, and then it would kind of branch out over like a year span. And then based on how popular it was, more and more theaters would get access to it. But yeah, it wasn't as easy to see a movie necessarily back then, unless you had a major theater or in a major city near you.
Yeah, that makes sense. And also, Casablanca, it took home the Best Picture, or the Oscar for Best Picture and Best Director and Best Screenplay. So it kind of took home like some of the big three categories there, and the director Michael Curtis of course, and then the Best Screenplay. It was written by a few different guys, and it's actually kind of like when it was first written, kind of touted as like just a simple kind of a screenplay that turned into something really cool, and so the main writers were Julius J. Epstein, Philip G. Epstein, and so they might have been brothers. I'm not sure, but and then Howard Koch too. So they all.
Well, the original writers, it was based on an unproduced play that they had a screenplay for called "Everyone Comes to Rick's." And it was a play that actually got put into a play form after the movie, but they optioned basically the script for the play, and then the Hollywood writers came in and turned the play script into like an actual movie screenplay, that sort of thing. But the movie itself, when they started shooting, the screenplay wasn't fully finished. It was like 3/4 of the way done, and they had some missing stuff that they kind of filled in as they went, including not the main monologue and the plane sequence, but the stuff that happens after Elsa leaves on the plane with Humphrey Bogart and Claude Rains was all thrown in at the last minute while they were shooting. So we'll talk about that when we get to it. Yeah.
Oh, nice. And yeah, I just want to go over Michael Curtis a little bit because he's a pretty big he went on to do quite a few things. I mean, he did things like Captain Blood. He did White Christmas. He directed that. He directed a movie that actually sent Chris. That's like the closest thing to what's played in the movie Home Alone. It's called Angels with Dirty Faces.
Also with Humphrey Bogart. He's an actor in that movie.
He's an attorney guy.
Mm-hmm. He's in it, but that's kind of what that like movie from Home Alone's based off of, Angels with Dirty Faces. Yeah, and then he directed Yankee Doodle Dandy. He directed, let's see here,
The Adventures of Robin Hood, the best Robin Hood movie with Errol Flynn. He did a lot of Errol Flynn movies in the 30s. Yeah, him and Errol Flynn were like real tight. Did a ton of movies. Did a lot of movies with James Cagney, and then obviously he had worked with Humphrey Bogart in Angels with Dirty Faces and Kid Galahad, a couple other movies in the 30s. So, and then obviously, but his most famous movie is Casablanca as a director.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But his second most famous might actually be that Robin Hood movie with Errol Flynn. That movie's very beloved by a lot of people.
That movie's so good.
So yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and then just going over the cast. I mean, obviously you have Humphrey Bogart. You got Ingrid Bergman in there. And it's funny. The movie theater that I used to work at over at the Village. I mean, you've probably seen it. There's a big mural of all these actors up there.
Oh yeah.
And then one of the faces is actually Ingrid Bergman up there. But like nobody could name who it is. I was asking all the young kids who work there. Like, I was like, you know who that is? Like, can you name that actress? And like nobody could. And I had to tell them all who it was.
One of my favorite things they have. So talking about that, they have what looks like basically Rick and Ingrid's characters. They're basically with the plane in the background at the airport.
Yeah. It was like really cool. Yeah,
it's kind of an old style painting.
Yeah.
Look.
Yeah, that theater that I worked at had some really cool stuff. It was a pretty fancy theater. So yeah, They had some balconies you could go sit up, all that stuff. So yeah, it's fun. But then they also have Paul Henreid playing Victor Laszlo. You got Peter Lorre in there, Claude Rains in there, Madeline LeBeau in there, Sidney Greenstreet, and then of course Dooley Wilson playing Sam. So yeah, it's a pretty great cast for back then. So yeah, but
Roger Ebert on
also,
the commentary was pointing out all these character actors that just had bit roles all throughout the movie. That if you're into movies from like the 30s and 40s, every little bit player here was all these studio guys that were in like every Warner Brothers movie or whatever. Like back then, all these guys played bit parts all over the place. I mean, if you look up some of these character actors, they were in like 200 movies, back
That's
then,
awesome.
just in everything. Yeah, so always
Right.
playing bit roles.
yeah, and I wanted to look up something about a composer. I was gonna.
The
When you
song,
Google it, it
famous
doesn't bring up
song, yeah.
a lot, but then but when you actually go to like the Wikipedia page, there's a lot
As
more.
time goes
But
by.
the composer is Max Steiner. So and he has done a lot of stuff that like you recognize back then. But he did the music for King Kong, like the original King Kong.
Oh, yeah.
So he did
King
that.
Kong and Gone with the Wind.
Oh,
Yeah, Gone with the Wind. They also
What?
did
Mhm.
music for the original Little Women too, from back in the 30s. He did that too. So yeah, some pretty notable stuff, you know. So and then also the movie it had a budget of about $1 million roughly, but it made 10.5 million. So that's like 10 times your budget. So that's doing pretty well for back then. Finally
Yeah.
make that amount, like way back in the 40s, you know. So yeah.
And Max Steiner, Chris did another Humphrey Bogart movie. He did The Treasure of the Sierra Madre as well.
Oh,
Oh,
that
yeah.
movie is
Closer.
phenomenal.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that one's great. Yeah. And then also, I was looking up the Rotten Tomatoes score. So it has a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. So I wanted to see what the one negative review
guy
was.
had to be like one asshole, right?
Yeah.
One guy.
Well, the weird thing is though, like I don't even know if it's a legit review because just next to the review, there's just one word posted that says "overblown," and then when you click on the link that's supposed to be to the full review, it takes you to some weird like random like Chinese website that doesn't even link to anything. It doesn't even make sense. So I wonder if it's just some kind of spam thing that just kind of happened. And really, the movie probably should be 100%. Like honestly.
Roger Ebert always famously said he didn't know a single critic in his circles or writer or anything that ever gave it a negative review ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. So
Interesting. So I don't know why I didn't realize this. Speaking it as the time goes by, it was originally written for a 1931 Broadway musical called "Everybody's Welcome," and
okay. Nice.
it was written by Herman Hutfield. And I didn't know this, but apparently it was actually sung by Dooley Wilson, who of course plays piano
cool.
there.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
Dooley Wilson, who
you-
was famously a drummer, not a pianist. So when you watch the movie, he's not actually playing the piano in the movie.
He's not?
Yeah.
He's just kind of pretending to play the piano throughout the whole movie.
But he's so seriously?
No, he's a
I don't
good
know why you know
actor.
that.
He's good in acting, but if you actually watch it, he's not actually playing. But he's actually singing, though. That is his voice. And famously, the studio head actually wanted to dub over his voice, didn't like his voice. And and Michael
Really?
Curtis and
Oh,
the
wow.
other producers vetoed that. And they're like, no, we love Dooley. Dooley's great. He's awesome, and we want him singing, and we like his voice. And
Oh
they
yeah.
pass on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also-
and the piano playing, was actually
you're
done
good.
by Elliot Carpenter,
Mhm.
who was placed
Okay.
where Wilson could see and imitate his hand movements.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That's cool.
And also, I was going to mention, speaking of as time goes by, if you listen to the Warner Brothers intro, the little intro that they have, that's a little clip from As Time Goes
Yes.
By.
Mhm.
And so Warner Brothers liked it so much that they wanted to be like the face of their company to like
Oh.
be at the beginning of every single movie that they had. So that's pretty cool.
So that's
that, like,
why
they
it's
really
there.
liked
I
it.
didn't know that.
Mhm.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but of course
So we can kind of hear it like da da na na na
Right.
na 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 na. That's
I always
that's
thought it
part
was
of
the
yeah.
same thing, but I'm like, maybe it could be just quickening. But
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
awesome.
right. Yeah, and then also I was just going to read a little like a synopsis
Yeah.
of the movie just for anyone who may not be familiar that's tuning in. But it was filmed and set during World War II. It focuses on an American expatriate who's played by Humphrey Bogart, who must choose between his love for a woman, Ingrid Bergman, and helping her husband, played by Henry, Czechoslovakian resistance leaders that escaped from a Vichy-controlled city of Casablanca to continue his fight against the Germans. And then one of the things that I didn't realize the first time that I watched it is like essentially Casablanca is like the meeting point for all these refugees, and they go there to try to flee a different dangerous situation and also get an exit visa to leave the country and maybe trying to come to the U.S. or like other places, like that. So yeah. But yeah, I was glad that I actually caught on to that. Why people kept talking about an exit visa. I'm like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. So yeah, but that's most of the kind of like just kind of like general information that I have. I mean, we can kind of jump into it to the plot and all that stuff. So yeah.
No, I mean, no, yeah. Like you said, it's set during World War II, which is kind of unprecedented at the time. The fact that they made this movie right in the middle of the escalation of the conflict, and actually, I was going to say the release schedule I read about how was actually rushed a little bit because they made this movie in early 1942 and were originally going to release it later in 1943, but rushed it to kind of coincide with the Allied invasion of Europe, and in their efforts to try to take back what had been occupied in Europe. So this movie actually ended up being really unprecedented as a movie that was kind of anti-Nazi in a time where there weren't a lot of movies that were talking about the Nazis, essentially, or even at the time, a lot of the studios were kind of taking a neutral. They just weren't commenting on it at all, things like that. So this movie and Warner Brothers in particular were very much anti-Nazi, and in this movie they are obviously the antagonists of the film. The Major Strasser guy is kind of the primary Nazi guy who's kind of leading the efforts there. And then you have this. It's when you break down the actual plot and the mechanics of how the politics work in Casablanca, it doesn't make a ton of sense because it's like the Germans are sort of occupying them, but like it's this French territory, but they're not officially occupying them.
You can't actually like arrest
sort of, but it wouldn't make any sense. Like, okay, we need travel papers, but if they really didn't want you to leave, the Germans would just arrest you. So, like, papers wouldn't matter,
like they did in the very beginning.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of silly, but again, the movie presents the rules of the movie, and these are the rules of the movie. This is the world we've set up. So this is what it is. The papers are the classic, the letters that he puts in the piano. That get kind of passed around. It's the MacGuffin of the movies, the classic Hitchcock MacGuffin.
Right. So like, I don't know why I didn't realize this, Austin. Like, and I've seen the movie so many times, but like that whole lead scene into like a Rick's Cafe, and even the parrot, you see these different people meeting with. They're like, oh yeah, you meet here at this certain time at 9:00. Make sure you bring money. It's like you have no doubt that so many of them are probably taking full advantage of these people. They're just like Karens, basically, picking the bones of these people that are trying to escape.
Yeah.
You can kind of see even he has I don't know if it's like some kind of partner that he's like getting all his supplies from, but they're always like just skimming a little off the top. He's talking about they got
that's the Ferrari guy, the big fat dude. Guy who has a competing cafe and bar, Ferrari, but they kind of share. Ferrari is the guy who kind of has the on the ground resources to bring in the booze, to bring in the cigarettes, to bring in the cigars, to bring in all that stuff. But occasionally, it's like a finder's fee. It's a risk fee, Hey, I got to skim a little fee is what they call it, my own place. But throughout the movie, he also drops the lines about he wants to buy Rick's bar because it's prime real estate right there. Because his place is kind of small. Rick's got the big, large, cafe. He wants to move into the big place and do it. So that's always kind of a looming thing, with him. But he's not like pushy about it. He's just like, hey, I'd like to buy your place someday, right? Like, I'll make you.
And also, I love like the little we get kind of the mystique. It kind of feels like kind of the mystique of Rick. And who Rick is. Rick kind of becomes larger than life because, you see kind of an opening and him kind of making his rounds, and this women are like, "Hey, this a request. So will Rick come down and join us for a drink?"
He never drinks.
He doesn't drink with anybody.
Rick doesn't drink with anybody. Well, what if they knew who we were?
Yeah,
that whole line is great.
Yeah. Well, and he doesn't drink with anybody, and that's kind of a kickoff to sort of these characters. And what I equated to and what I looked at, especially on my second viewing with the Ebert commentary, what he pointed out is that Casablanca is a crossroads. It's a hub, it's a hub where everybody's got to stop to kind of go one direction or another. Yeah, they either catch some boats or some planes, off on a journey to America or some other neutral country. But Rick is at a crossroads in his life, how we find out. He went to this place and he's kind of stuck and deciding what he wants to do next. He kind of feels lost. Ilsa is kind of at a crossroads as to whether or not she's going to stay with Laszlo or she's going to go back to Rick. It's a whole decision. Claude Rains, Captain Louis, is at a crossroads because he's this French captain, the chief of police, but now he's got these Germans that are occupying the force, and he wants to continue to be a good soldier essentially and do his duty, but he also is loyal to France and doesn't like the fact that these Germans are, starting to take things over. He's a loyal Frenchman at heart, and he's free France at heart.
Yeah, like there's a great moment, Austin, where his character's talking to Rick. He's like, I run things here. And then all of a sudden they hurry in and they tell him that Strasser's here.
Yeah,
he quickly turns on his heel and walks out.
Well, and they allow Rick, to do what he does, even though he's kind of wanted, because Louis has convinced them that, hey, look, Rick runs this place. There's a lot of other shady characters that come in and out of this place, selling phony visas, doing some shady dealings, some spies that come through here and whatnot. But it's better to catch them and spy on them. It's better to catch them and get them in here out in the open than it is to try to catch them in the alleys. It's way harder to catch them in the underground. And it's like, so as long as Rick runs his place, and he keeps his nose clean. He stays out of the actual business.
Neck out for nobody.
He doesn't stick his neck out for nobody. That's also why he doesn't converse with the customers, because he doesn't want to be seen as taking bribes or making favorites or anything like that. He'll be kind of around, but he doesn't get involved. And he knows Louis is always hanging around watching him, you know what I mean? And then making sure he doesn't get too involved. But yeah, they allow him to kind of continue business, if you will, as long as you kind of stay neutral in the whole situation. Yeah, and don't stick your nose where it doesn't belong.
Right.
Yeah, and I like how he kind of says, I don't stick my neck out for nobody. But then, as we see with the Victor Laszlo stuff, we'll see that maybe this once, I don't know.
Well, we hear a lot about later in the movie, and that's kind of how it develops. Is Rick does have this past where he was fighting with rebels here and there, around Europe. He was kind of helping people out here and there. It's just he's so dejected and disheveled, from what happened in Paris, that he's kind of lost his passion. He's lost his interest. He's lost his drive to be a good person. He's a good person at heart, but he has no reason to be at this point.
And what I kind of got from that, Austin, was like he made a point, and especially like I don't stick my neck out for nobody. He doesn't really choose the side. He just does it for the money to a degree.
To a degree, yeah. But we see him do the right thing, obviously, later,
Right, it isn't just for the money we find.
But I love this whole, first 20 or 30 minutes when we're just kind of going in and out of the cafe. We're kind of meeting all the primary players. We're having these little conversations. We're meeting his staff. We're meeting the maitre d's and the waiters that are running around, always kind of hustling people left and right to this table, that table. The Russian bartender, that kind of keeps an eye on the ladies, at the bar, and lets Rick know, kind of what's going on around the bar. Everybody's kind of... Rick doesn't converse with everybody, but everybody does the conversing for him. Right. Everybody is his eyes and ears out on the floor. That's what they have this whole operation essentially going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny too that there's even some I don't know if it's one of the policemen or the guards that comes in, and then there's some gunshots, and then he just kind of nonchalantly, he's like, please everybody sit down and have a good time. And this right after a freaking gunshot goes off, and they're like, don't worry about that. It's fine.
Well, it's a whole stage thing that Louis basically, it's to, again, he's working with Rick to show this Major Strasser guy, hey, you see this Rick guy? He kind of, he facilitated this arrest of this guy, who might have killed these couriers. See, it's a show. It's a complete and utter show. It's a whole stage thing of sit down, Major Strasser. We're going to arrest somebody tonight. That's literally what it's like. It's like, oh, we're going to make this arrest tonight. Watch and see what happens. Here's Mr. Rick. He facilitated this tonight. Won't you come and sit and drink with us, Mr. Rick? Things like that.
Yeah, right.
it's a whole complete another show. It's a farce.
Peter Lorre in that role is so good.
Yeah,
As this creepy little like sniveling
little Visa Weasel.
yeah, Visa Weasel.
Yeah, little weasel. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
Do you despise me? I love that line in there. What was it? God.
Well, I haven't gotten to know you enough yet to despise you.
Yeah.
My name, right? I despise you.
Yeah. Or once Elsa comes in and he's like sitting and like talking to her, and then some more people come in, like the chief of police guy. He comes in and then he's he's saying that he's gonna pay, and he's like, no, this is my party. Like, I'm gonna pay. And then he has the line, like, you're becoming quite human. I guess we have you to thank, Mademoiselle, because he wants to do it to impress her, to do it in front of her. And then when he's like, I'm offering. Oh, he says that it's my party. I'm offering to pay for the check for the chief of police, and then he's like another president's set or something like that, you know. So they're kind of doing it to like kind of like impress her to a degree, sort of. So yeah. Like. Yeah.
No, Captain Louis is a total ladies' man throughout the entire movie. You can tell, but there's even some implications that they got in trouble over a little bit. Not that they explicitly state it, but there was a little bit of a controversy at the time because there's some implications later on that Captain Louis sometimes takes sexual favors for travel pieces.
That's what I thought.
There's a little bit of an implication of that. The girl that and the couple that play roulette later, that play the rigged roulette game, you know, to where Rick gets them some money. You know, she's having this conversation with Rick later, and she's going, this Captain Louis guy, is he trustworthy? Like, would he do what he said he would do if we do what we need to do or whatever, you know? And there's an implication because later when they come in to meet with Louis in the police station and they say somebody's here to see you, he kind of straightens his tie and he kind of mushes his hair. He kind of touches his hair. I'm going to get ready. And there's an implication there that not that he's forcing anybody to do anything, but he's kind of, you know, again, people, these are all kind of unsavory characters kind of doing things on the side. Nobody is like a straight-laced, completely good person. Everybody's got their grayness to them, you know, and what they do.
This is I love the little scene, like for instance, in the poker game when it kind of obviously is kind of rigged to help that one person, help the couple, but there's that moment where afterwards the guy walks up to sort of the maitre d' and goes, is this rigged?
Yeah, right.
Wow. He's like, well, you know, let's just say Rick's a lucky guy or something like that. Yeah. That's how they just brush it off.
Well, you'll see later when they're doing some more gambling too, with like the roulette and all that stuff too. You'll see that.
No, he's got a thing where he's got a magnet in there where they can pull it to a number if he needs it to. You know, that's how they rig the roulette game, and that's a classic roulette rigging. You know, certain things they can pull it to certain numbers if they need to. You know, when they have to get the money.
Well, I hate to just be here for such a short time. My date's actually coming early. I got a date after this, so I'm gonna go find my Ilsa. Hopefully, we'll see. I don't know, but hopefully it'll turn out better than what it did in the end for them. But I mean, I just want to just give it early. I mean, you can just take it for what you will. But I wanted to give my final score just because I got to head up. But I mean, after a second rewatch, I give it about a 7.5 out of 10. I'm still, just because I'm not as like into classic movies.
Right.
I do really like them. I do think that they're great pieces of cinema.
We know it's a lot of people talking in rooms. We get it. I know.
Yeah. Well, no, that's like way more than just that. This has got action and humor and all kinds of fun stuff. But it's just like for right now. But I think that score will go up over time as I watch it. I'll probably try to revisit it, maybe either like once a year or maybe once every other year, something like that. Just see if I can try to appreciate it more. So yeah, but this was fun. I'll look forward to coming back after my date and maybe checking out the rest of your guys' thoughts on it. So
definitely,
yeah, sure.
But yeah, happy belated birthday! And
thank you,
buddy. I'll just say that my quick little 2-second plug. Tune into tournament fights on Tuesday, which I should know what we're actually
musicals.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, best musical of all time. So we're doing that. If you're a musical fan, I mean, a movie is not a musical, but it's filled with some great music. So yeah, just come check that out Tuesday. But thanks, guys. Have fun, and I'll catch you later.
All right, sounds good. Yeah. So Chris, I was going to get back into the actual some of the plot beats that we were talking about, but yeah, I was saying how I love the first 20-30 minutes of the movie, how it kind of perfectly sets up again all these locations we're going to be dealing with, all the ins and outs of Rick's Cafe and the police station, and kind of everything that we deal with. It's a very small movie as far as that goes, and you can see why this was originally going to be a play, because if you were put on a production of this on stage, you could do it. All you would really need is the various little Rick's Cafe sets. All you needed, the police station, Rick's office, his apartment, things like that, and then some of the flashback stuff, the train station and whatnot. But you don't need like a lot of sets. You could do this on a stage, and you could make it a pretty flawless stage production. Because a lot of it's just kind of going in and out of here. But yeah, I think it kind of perfectly sets up again all the principal players. So there was a quote here. That Roger even talked about, a quote that John Ford had that he kind of addended, where somebody asked John Ford, and for anybody who doesn't know, if you saw The Fabelmans at the end of the movie, it's the director that Steve Spielberg talks to at the end of The Fabelmans that David Lynch is playing. He talks to John Ford, and John Ford was once asked, what makes a great movie? And John Ford said, a great movie is a movie with 3 great scenes and no bad scenes. and Roger Ebert goes, all right, so I mean, that's his definition. I would have done that a little bit, and I would say that a great movie is a movie with a lot of great scenes, but also no wasted motion or no wasted scenes. And I think Casablanca is one of those movies that I think you would agree that doesn't have any wasted scenes. Like every scene has a purpose, sets up a character, sets up a motivation, has something that will get called back later, some kind of foreshadowing, or sets up some of the politics or whatever it is. And I think it's kind of perfect in that way.
Yeah, and that's this movie it does such a good job. And I feel like obviously it's a small movie, but like you said, it feels kind of big the way they shot it.
Right.
It feels like you could almost walk into Rick's Cafe and hang out and sit down at a table.
Well, it feels like an adventure movie, even though we don't leave Casablanca, because it's not some globe-trotting thing, but you kind of feel like you're getting a taste of the rest of the world through all the characters that are coming in here, because you've got these Nazis, you got the French people, you got the Russian guy, you got Rick, who's an American, you got all these different nationalist people. They say they're from Bulgaria, the couple, Bulgarian people, all these refugees that are kind of in and out of the place. So it feels like a global thing, but it's just kind of this hub right here, and that's one of the cool things about it. Is I think some of the best stuff of the movies when they're just going in and out here, and we're getting those really kind of some really great dialogue. Like I said, all the stuff between Rick and Claude Rains is great. I love all their scenes together. They have such great chemistry in this movie. They're back and forth, and all their little conversations are great. He kind of steals the movie for me. Like, I love Rick, but man, I love Claude Rains as Captain.
Claude Rains' character is so awesome. Good in there.
He's so great.
Like, I love that moment where he's having a drink with Victor Laszlo, and he's like, "Oh, I played this game where I just tear up the check."
Yeah, where I run up the bill and I tear up the check afterwards. Yes. Yeah, exactly. And there's a nice little moment too where the maitre d' he tells him get the best table ready for Major Strasser, and he goes, "Yes, I will give him the best table, although he would take one anyways," or something like that, or you take the best one anyways. There's great little crackling lines like that.
I love the cute little moment, the sweet little moment, because you get those little glimpses, like you said, of these people that are sort of stuck in there hoping to leave. Like we have the sweet older couple who I'd imagine the way it feels have been coming in there forever. So the maitre d' comes over with a bottle of the best brandy in the house. He says, "This is why I brought the best brandy." And they say, "We're getting ready to leave, and also we've been practicing our English." And I love they're like, "Oh, what time is it? 10 watch." You guys will do really well when you leave here.
No, that's the thing. That's a Michael Curtis thing too. He always kind of populated the little side bits of his movies with all these little characters that you remember, even if they only have a scene or two. Just all these fun little bits. Like you said, the older couple that you feel like they did legitimately get stuck in Casablanca, and they're stuck here, and they're on a waiting list for the visas or whatever, and they can't do anything about it. They're just on a waiting list. They don't have the money to pay. I'd imagine a couple of $1,000 sandwich or
Oh,
something,
yeah.
get out of there easily. Whatever it is. You get even the little things. There's that guy in the marketplace that's trying to sell the stuff to Ilsa, and he keeps pulling out the little cards of the
He's
price.
like, for Rick.
For a friend of Rick, 200 francs. And he goes, a special friend of Rick, 100 francs. Just like these little things that, they're not essential to the plot necessarily, but they populate the world here. Yeah.
The guy, when the movie opens up, we see him first off, the
pickpocket guy.
Yeah, pickpocket guy. Oh,
yeah.
Hello, are you guys doing wonderful, doing good?
Yes.
He has like a fancy cane, it looks like, and he's doing really well, and he pickpockets the one guy.
He pickpockets the one rich guy later at the bar.
Yeah.
When he kind of shakes his hand. So you see him kind of pop in and out of the cafe. Again, all these little people you see kind of running around all over the place. Doing little things.
And that's what I feel like just makes this movie feel so real.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think I probably fell in love with this movie years ago.
Oh, for sure. No, I can see.
Not only does it have a powerful romance, but I'd argue that it's more than the romance. It's got so many other elements in there.
No, it's one of those movies where you like just hanging out with the characters around the setting, and seeing what's going on and being in this world, like essentially is what it is. It's kind of a hangout movie to that degree. But yeah, I guess speaking of the romance, we can get into that because after that, the movie obviously picks up a second act as Ilsa walks in the door, and Sam sees her first, and he kind of has a great look on his face. It's great acting where he's just like kind of almost does this double take, like, this is not good, and they have a little conversation, and he's kind of playing aloof. I don't know where Rick is, ma'am. I'm so sorry.
Yes, I think he's gone.
He might be with his girl somewhere. And once she gets in to play the song, he hears it. What the hell? I told you, Sam, to not play that song anymore. And they lock eyes. And that's when really, I think the movie kind of takes off because you see a change in Rick, and even further change in Rick. Rick's already kind of a cynical dude, just kind of doing his thing, going through the motions. And man, Humphrey Bogart's so good from then on. You can see when they lock eyes, all the memories kind of flooding back for both of them, and the what happened and the devastation and everything.
It's a look,
yes,
Austin, but you feel it.
You feel every bit of it.
You feel his emotions with one look.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting chills right now just talking
about
it.
No. You see his whole demeanor change in a second.
Yeah.
100%. No, and that's what great actors are able to do. Ingrid Bergman, especially, and Roger Ebert talked about this. She's very good at kind of looking down and having these little side looks where you can tell she's thinking about things and processing information as to what to say next, what not to say. Rick's the same way. He he always has something to say until Ilsa shows up, and then he kind of has trouble finding the words. He has trouble kind of finding the words and what to do, and he gets very cynical with her pretty much immediately. He's kind of brushing her off. So you get those inklings of something happened between the two. They have a history, but you don't quite know what it is yet. Something went bad between the two of them. You figure that they had a romance. Something went wrong, but you see her with this other guy, and you're like, well, who's this other guy? It's this Laszlo guy we've been talking about, that the captain's been talking about, that everybody's looking for, and wants to keep him in Casablanca so he can't go off and continue to fight the underground fight. For
There's that great moment where Claude Rains basically is like, oh, this is Rick. Oh yeah, we know one another.
Yeah, no, everybody knows everybody around here. We've already heard about you before you even gotten here. Yeah, no, I mean words out about the Laszlo guy. Everybody knows. But yeah, you get these really kind of crushing scenes, after she's kind of they don't reconcile immediately. Obviously, they're against each other, and you get that great stuff between him and Sam, where Dooley Wilson really gets to have some great moments with Humphrey Bogart, where he's like, why don't we just get out of here? Let's get out of here. I'll drive.
We'll drunk.
We'll just go somewhere and get drunk and go fishing, and and we'll come back in in a couple of weeks, and she'll be gone, and we'll forget any of this ever happened. We'll just get out of here. And he's just like, no, I got to deal with this now. And that's where he does the famous line, which I did pull a few clips. So if you'd like,
yes, absolutely, play the line.
Play the line. Here we go.
Yes.
They grab Bugatti, then she walks in. Well, that's the way it goes. One in, one out. Sam.
Yes, boss.
It's December 1941 in Casablanca. What time is it in New York?
What? My watch stopped.
I bet they're asleep in New York. I bet they're asleep all over America.
smoking joints in all the towns in all the world. She walks into mine.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And then
one of dozens of famous lines from this movie, realistically.
but like furthermore in that scene where as you said, like he says, "No, boss, let's just leave." You know, Oni says, "Are you ever gonna go to sleep?" No.
No.
Well, then I'm
You
saying
ever gonna think about going to bed? No.
No.
Yeah, he's so frustrated.
Yes.
Just you ever gonna leave this bar? No. Yeah,
No,
just this.
I'm gonna die here because I know she's coming back.
Oh yeah.
And I love that scene where initially, you know, after the whole where he's like, "Oh, let's just go down drunk." He's like, "No, you know what I want to hear. I want to hear that song. If she can hear it, I can take it."
Hear it. Yep. If she can take it, I can. Yeah, and he reluctantly just plays the song, and because he's realizing, you know, everything's come to head. It's time to deal with the situation. You know, it's literally right in front of him. He went halfway across the world and still couldn't escape the situation. And can't avoid it. It's here now, so he's got to deal with it. But yeah, and then we get these flashbacks where we actually find out their backstory and kind of what happened. They were in love in Paris. You know, he had a cafe there as well. Sam was there. You know, they were in love. They were doing their thing. They were probably, you know, about to get married, or at least he had ideas of wanting to get married. And everything gets interrupted because the Nazis are about to invade Paris, and they're on the way, and they can hear, you know, the gunfire in the distance. They've got maybe a day or two to get out. We have some nice little scenes between them. And basically the payoff is that they're supposed to meet up at the train station at a certain time to get on the train to get out, and she doesn't show up. She stands
Do
him
you
up.
have that scene?
I don't have the actual scene of that.
Okay.
I have one of Claude Rains' lines later, and then I have the final monologue that.
All right.
That he
Well,
gives to her,
I can sort of
later.
describe that like one of my favorite moments in that scene gets me every single time. Rick is set to meet Elsa, the love of his life. They're going to leave together. He even at one point, they're sitting together in the cafe and they're on the couch, you know, cuddled up. He goes, you know, we could be spontaneous. We can go get married. And she's like, well, it's much too fast. I got to think about this. And so he shows up, and Sam shows up and goes, hey, have you seen her? No, but this note arrived for you. And if I recall, let me look the note up. Hold on.
Oh, okay. It's something like you have to leave without me, or something like that. And it's basically a thing of like, you know, I can't come with you and whatnot.
Right.
Yeah, it's only like 2 sentences.
Don't try to find me.
Yeah.
Really? Okay. Richard, I cannot go with you or ever see you again. You must not ask why. Just believe that I love you. Go, my darling, and God bless you, Elsa.
Yeah, that's quite a note. I love you, but I can't go with you, and you can't ever look for me ever again, basically. Oh, great. Oh, sounds good. Well, let me just head off of the train and get out of here. No problem. That explains everything. And you can see why he's pissed off and just completely broken. When he gets there.
And that beautiful scene with the rain falling too, like it's beautifully, hauntingly beautiful. You know, and it's like when he sees that note, and then of course, Sam at this point is basically rushing him because they gotta make the train, and you see that point where they're standing kind of like halfway in the door, and it sort of takes off, and he's like crumbles it up and tosses the note aside. It's just awesome.
Yeah. And we come back from the flashbacks, and, you know, Laszlo kind of knows there's something, a history between, you know, between the two of them, but he doesn't quite know yet what it is. I mean, he kind of figures it out eventually. But even then, you know, Laszlo, you know, he's very kind of stoic, and, you know, he doesn't show as much emotion as Rick and Ilsa does.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's still a nice moment later when he kind of confronts Elsa in the third act and basically says, look, I know there was something between you guys. I get it. You thought I was dead because the whole thing with him was, he was in a concentration camp, thought to be dead. She thought he was dead, and rightfully so. You know, because most people died after it did not come back from there.
They did not,
and you know, he's like, look, you thought I was dead. You fell in love with somebody else. That's fine. I get it. You know, I was not there. And he just wants to know if you're gonna leave me for Rick. Like, just tell me now. Basically, tell me now. Like, tell me now if you're going to, and we can deal with this. And even Ilsa, I think, is still deciding whether or not she does. Rick is on the opposite thing. He knows, and that's all he wants is an answer as well. They kind of both just want an answer from her. And
they both want to kind of know where they fall. And there's that really heartbreaking moment, of course, when Elsa shows up later. We find out she has the papers, basically, and she sort of breaks down and says, I can't make my mind up. I don't know whether I want to stay with you or leave. You know, I need you to do the thinking for us.
Yes. Make the decision for me.
Yes.
Yeah. Be the man and make the decision for me.
Right.
But all he wants to know is, was the love real? That's all he wants to know. And that's all he wants to say, because obviously that note was like, very vague and gave him nothing, you know, I love you, but I can't ever see you again. That's not, he doesn't know if that was real or
any
not.
Information,
no information. And that's all he wants to know. He's like, and that's kind of, again, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. That's why he pushes her off to the thing, but essentially it's, okay, I know you actually love me. It was real. I can let you go now. At least I have closure on that. That's all he wants is some closure. But yeah, so I mean, they have to actually get the papers to get out first. Obviously, there's still you know, speculation. Does Rick have them? Does he not have them? Who's he going to give them to? They try to get some from Ferrari. Ferrari will only give them one, and they have a little debate as to whether you know, they have a little heart to heart about. Well, Laszlo, would you leave me to take that visa if that was the option? And he goes, yes, I would. And essentially because to him, there are bigger stakes in the world than just us.
Right. And those bigger stakes are basically because he is such a icon for the movement that he realizes that, okay, this is bigger than love. This is bigger than, it's about knowing, it's about helping with the French resistance.
Right, and that's the thing of like he's the sort of that honest guy. He's just a straightforward dude, and he's just going to tell you that. He's like, yeah, I understand. We're husband and wife. I get it, but you know, yeah, the world does not revolve around us. Essentially, you know, there's bigger world, you know, stakes here, and that I need to be that guy. And I think Ilsa at least, you know, understands that to a degree, but it also kind of informs her decision making throughout the movie, you know, because yeah, I mean, look at it from her perspective. How would you feel if your husband was like, yeah, I'd totally take a visa and just leave you here?
You're just like, ow, okay.
Yeah. But at the same time, you know, all these characters though are not, I don't think there's anybody that's a straight arrow. Everybody has their little, you know, flaws and gray areas. You know, Rick, you know, not helping people in the beginning of the movie, staying out of it. Eventually, but showing his heart when he helps the couple at the roulette table, you know, get the money they need to get out, and everybody kind of sees that, all of his little,
they sort of celebrate him, and they're like,
oh yeah, they celebrate him. Yeah, they see that he doesn't stop Laszlo in the great scene when Laszlo counteracts the German singing in the cafe, which is one of the great scenes ever.
And
it's so good.
What makes that scene even more haunting? I don't know if you probably read this.
The extras that were refugees
are actual people that were in concentration camps themselves.
Some of them, yeah. Some of them were then, but a lot of them were, even just a lot of the extras in the movie were all refugees from Europe who had fled to America, and even some of the actors from there. And even if they weren't in camps necessarily, they were in Nazi-occupied territories. So they legitimately had these feelings of ill will towards these people and felt like this was sort of this battle call of resistance even in the movie. And I read that people wrote about that day. There was press things back then about how when they filmed that scene there wasn't a dry eye in the whole set. It was just crying and just breaking down, and it was actually kind of a real moment. Ingrid Bergman's tears, there's a couple of the extras you can see in the background are crying. Those are real tears. Like, they didn't ask anybody to cry, they just are. And it's a really powerful scene. Like, as far as
no wonder you like just get, God, that scene makes me tear up every single time I watch it.
Oh yeah, no, it's
beautiful. That's why you feel okay, because it's
No, it's absolutely, it's beautiful. And especially, when you do know the story of some of the people that are actually in the scene, because even in the marketplace and whatnot, they got a lot of actual European actors and exters to make it, again, feel authentic. It's not just a bunch of white people running around in, garb. Yes. You know what I mean? It's like people who people who look like they're from Bulgaria or Romania or Russia.
Unlike
or,
now,
whatever.
where you flesh out a movie and it's just...
Oh yeah, some of the movies from back then where it's just white dudes, just dressing up and whatever. Yeah. So yeah, it feels very genuine in that. But yeah, so I mean, we kind of start coming to a head here when they got to start making some decisions. Rick kind of almost pulls a swerve, and you don't know if he's legit or not, and he's going to set up Laszlo to be arrested,
right?
And he's talking to Louis about it, and he's saying, "No, I'll stage it to where I give him these papers, and then you'll have your evidence, and you can bust in there, and you can arrest him. You'll catch him red-handed, And you kind of go, well, I mean, Rick early in the movie was, kind of. He doesn't stick his nose out exactly like you said. We know he's got a heart, but this is a much bigger thing than just rigging a roulette game and giving some guy some money.
Keep this cafe.
You got to keep, he's got to keep his life essentially. But so you don't know. But he pulls the swerve, and he pulls a gun on Louis and tells him, to get the plane ready, and that Laszlo's coming. And we have one quick thing. I did pull one of my favorite Claude Rains moments when they shut down the cafe, and you probably know what I'm talking about. It's a great
Everybody is to leave here immediately. This cafe is closed until further notice. Clear the room at once.
How can he close me up? On what ground?
I'm shocked to find that gambling is going on in here.
You're winning, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. Everybody out at once.
Yes.
You're winning, sir. You're winning, sir. Oh, thank you. I'm shocked to find gambling going on. No, it's great because it's a facade. It's a whole thing. Yeah, of course it is. But it's hilarious. Again, that's the relationship they have. They're just
great. Yeah.
When the major's find a reason to shut it down. All right, it's gambling in here. What's going on? No, it's great. No, it's good stuff. And Louis. You can tell he again has to show his authority when he needs to. He has to keep the face.
When when you were talking about getting the papers, when they kind of meet, and he's like, "Oh, we'll meet," and he says to Claude, "I think I'm gonna sell this basically, but don't worry, he'll still let you win at roulette."
Oh yeah, because I let you win a roulette. Oh, yes. Right. Yeah, no, they have that little relationship. But you don't really know what's going to happen. They all rush to the airport. They've got Louis with them. They're getting the plane ready. Which, by the way, just a quick behind the scenes thing. In those scenes with the plane, when you see it in the background, that's actually they didn't have a huge budget for this movie. It's just a cardboard cutout of a plane in the very background.
I heard about that. That's absolutely crazy.
And then for scale, they had little people working on the plane in front of it to give it a much larger scale on camera. So
that's cool. I knew it was cardboard, but I was like, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they actually just had some little people actors kind of surrounding it to make it seem bigger than what it actually was. Just a little perspective tricks from back in the day. And I alluded to it, but we finally get to a thing here, and they get the papers, and he puts Laszlo and Ilsa's name on it and says, "No, you're going," and because you think it's going to be, any other movie, Chris, any other classic romance movie, right? Rick would get the girl, and they would ride off into the sunset, right? And they would roll off into the sunset. But it's kind of perfect for this movie that's not what happens, and it's not the right thing. And Rick knows that she's going to have a better life, getting to safety with Laszlo, and him still being this underground leader, rather than just being kind of a fugitive,
fugitive and being on the run with him. It's a incredibly powerful moment. And
so I have the little monologue he gives to Ingrid Bergman, because it's one of the great monologues in film history. So let's take a look at that really, really quick as we kind of get to the end here.
Louis, have your man go with Mr. Laszlo and take care of his luggage.
Certainly, Rick. Anything you say. Find Mr. Laszlo's luggage and put it on the plane.
Yes, sir. This way, please. If you don't mind, you fill in the names. That'll make it even more official.
You think of everything, don't you?
And the names are Mr. and Mrs. Victor Laszlo.
But why my name, Richard?
Because you're getting on that plane.
I don't understand. What about you?
I'm staying here with him till the plane gets safely away.
No, Richard, no. What has happened to you? Last night
we said a great many things. You said I was to do the thinking for both of us. Well, I've done a lot of it since then. It all adds up to one thing. You're getting on that plane with Victor where you belong.
But Richard, no,
Now, you've got to listen to me. You have any idea what you'd have to look forward to if you stayed here? 9 chances out of 10, we'd both wind up at a concentration camp. Isn't that true, Louis?
I'm afraid Major Strasser would insist.
You're saying this only to make me go.
I'm saying it because it's true. Inside of us, we both know you belong with Victor. You're part of his work, the thing that keeps him going. If that plane leaves the ground and you're not with him, you'll regret it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon and for the rest of your life.
But what about us?
We'll always have Paris. We didn't have. We lost it until you came to Casablanca. We got it back last night.
When I said I would never leave you.
And you never will. But I've got a job to do, too. Where I'm going, you can't follow. What I've got to do, you can't be any part of. Ilsa, I'm no good at being noble, but it doesn't take much to see that the problems of 3 little people don't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy world. Someday you'll understand that. Now. He's looking at you, kid.
So yeah, great monologue, great acting.
So one of the coolest things I don't have it near me. I know it's somewhere, but I have actual Hallmark ornaments that were released right around the time of this movie released by Hallmark. And it's got a Rick and a Angry Boardman and also a Casablanca movie poster that I got.
Nice.
That are really incredibly awesome. Yeah.
So what I was going to say about the ending is they knew everything up until, that monologue, all the stuff with the plane and everything, and them getting on the plane. They didn't know exactly how they were going to end it after that. They didn't have any wrap ups for Rick and Louis and Major Strasser and all that kind of stuff. So they were able to work around, and they brought the writers back in and came up with a thing real quick, and they came up with some perfect kind of come around to the beginning with Major Strasser getting there, Rick pulling the gun on him. Louis kind of caught in the middle of the whole thing. But he tells him how to pull the gun. Obviously, he pulls the gun. Rick shoots him. But Louis, and actually they added in even a little insert shot of after Rick shoots him, and then the other cops show up, ready to kind of arrest whoever. There's a moment where Louis looks at him and kind of gives him a nod, and they kind of give this look at each other and kind of gives him a nod, like you did the right thing, or I got you. You know what I mean? That wasn't originally in the scene. They added it, which makes the whole scene, because it's just kind of the amalgamation of everything they've been through. Right. We got each other's back. We're on the same page here. You know what I mean? They're picking a side. Yeah. We're on the same page here. And it's a great callback to the beginning of him doing the whole Major Strasser's been shot, round up the usual suspects, and that was a callback to obviously the original stuff in the first couple minutes with the guy who gets shot, round up the usual suspects, bring them all in, all that kind of stuff. And it's a perfect nice little callback. And then of course we get them walking off and delivering the Louis, this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. And it's a wonderful, and that was also, Chris, an ADR line put in post-production that they didn't have originally. Yes. Seriously? They put the whole cut together. They had that scene. They had them walking off, and then they felt like they just needed one extra little punch at the end. And so they said, "What can we do? Let's put in this line." They wrote the line about the friendship, and then and that was the nice last little punch you need to kind of go all right, there we go, and they're heading off, to have another adventure somewhere.
It's amazing to think like that line. I feel like kind of solidifies things, like in that conversation between them, and I love that moment at the end where Claude Rains kind of says, you're a patriot. And he picks up a bottle of wine and he kind of takes a drink and he kind of tosses it in and kicks it aside. Kind of symbolizes that, you know what? I'm
done with this whole thing. Yeah, he's done with the whole thing. Yeah, he throws away the Vizzy water or whatever. Yes. And it symbolizes, he's done working with the the Germans doing this whole thing.
Free.
So he's free. He's totally free.
Holy shit! Why did they not
he throws that away. That's very symbolic of him throwing away his old life, and they're moving on to a new life. Wow, it's Vizzy on it, so he's throwing in the whole thing. It's a Vizzy occupation. So, and you get that line, and it worked. And sometimes you have these happy accidents, Chris, and these production stories. The movie, sometimes you don't know what you have till you put it all together, and you realize you're missing something, or you need a little extra something here and there. And you think you have the greatest thing, but you may not. Just these little things that make all the difference, in these scenes. And it works, and it's a kind of a perfect ending. Again, not the classic romance ending, as we were talking about, where Rick and Elsoff run off together and reconcile and live happily ever after. It's very much not that, but everybody in the movie is at peace with where they're going.
Right.
Essentially, everybody has closure and are starting a new chapter in their life. Essentially,
right. When he says, these two people. God, seriously, I should know the whole line. All of a sudden, I'm pacing it.
No, it's okay.
We don't mean a hill of beans in this world.
Well, we're minuscule compared to what's going on. You know what I mean? Like between the two of us, it doesn't matter. Again,
and that's why this is bigger. This is why you need to do this.
It's much bigger. You got to go off and do your thing, and we got to go off and do our thing. But it's one of those things where you don't want like a sequel, but you could almost see a third adventure where you see where Louis and Rick went together to go, join the resistance, where where Laszlo and Ilsa kind of end up. Roger Ebert also described it as like it's almost like a second act of a 3-act movie. This whole sequence here, because the first act would have been a lot of the stuff with Rick and Elsa in Paris and Laszlo and his life and all that. This is kind of the middle portion where everybody is at the crossroads, and you could almost see like an extra hour and a half where you get to see where they go from there.
Yeah,
but we don't need to. We can speculate, him and
and that's Louis the wonderful thing about this movie that kind of leaves it open for you to be like, okay, well, they got away. They, Laszlo's off helping resistance. He did not end up telling the Nazis, where the resistance leaders were, even though they did promise him the papers. He's like, no, I'm better than that. I don't give a shit.
If I didn't give it to you when you had more persuasive methods in the camp, what makes you think I'm going to give it to you now? That's great. And Louis goes off and he's ready to fight for a free France, and be true to his country, and it's great. So, and to reinvigorate Rick to help him out, because Rick's not the guy that is the rousing leader like Laszlo is, but he's that shady guy that can get things done. That knows people who knows people who know people. You need those people, but you need those people too, Chris. You need those people in your cause. You need those guys who can go undercover and get things done. So and that's what's great about it. Yeah, you get enough in the movie to kind of speculate where everybody's been, where they're going, what's going to happen next, but you don't have to spell it out completely.
So the one thing that I was bummed about is in the extras for they did a beautiful, cool, like big box, and it kind of looks like Casablanca. It's white. At the time, all I had was the money for the DVD when I got it. But in there's actually the radio program they recorded from.
Oh, yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
And actually, they recorded a cartoon for this, too. That is so cool.
No, they used to do radio versions of a lot of movies, again, because a lot of people, Chris, it's what I was talking about at the beginning, couldn't get to the theater to watch it unless it came to these things, but they would do these national radio plays, and I actually have Star Wars radio plays on cassette. They did Star Wars radio plays for the original trilogy of the Star Wars movie. I have those on cassette.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so you can listen to these, and they're probably on YouTube. I'm sure you can
or Spotify. That's awesome.
Yeah, you can look them up and find them. But they used to cast actors and do radio plays of these things and big dramatic things, because it's like in A Christmas Story when he's listening to the pirate shows on the radio and the Little Orphan Annie. Like, you had to listen to this stuff and use your imagination.
Shadow,
all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so I mean, because unless you live next to a big giant, like I said, a city with a big theater that got these big movies, it was hard to see. But a couple of quick things afterwards. We talked about the Oscars. By 1977, when everybody had television, Chris, by 1977, this was the most syndicated movie in the country. The most syndicated movie, as far as all these stations that played this movie constantly, just all over the place. Because it was much easier to get rights to show movies on local stations and whatnot. And a lot of these local stations back then needed programming for the weekends, especially because you had all the network stuff that would come on every night.
Right.
Your Tonight shows, your variety shows, your sitcoms, all that kind of stuff. But they needed stuff for the weekend when all the shows weren't on, and before those reruns. So a lot of them would show old movies. They would show old movies from the 30s and 40s. They would show comedy stuff, Laurel and Hardy, Three Stooges, Little Rascals, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, they would just show movies. And Casablanca was a highly requested movie that got shown a lot
so cool.
In the 70s. And then obviously when video came around in the 80s, it was one of the hot video rentals of the 80s as well. A lot of people
I have a cool VHS of it which is a neat pull off of that kind of design of that poster, but it's a little cooler than that poster behind this. And I have it on DVD, and I have it on 4K, obviously.
Yeah, no, I had before this. I think I had the DVD. I think I traded that in, but that's because I had traded up, and I showed you this before. I got that Bogart Blu-ray collection that had Casablanca on it, but it also had Maltese Falcon, Treasure Sierra Madre, and the African Queen.
I just ordered the Maltese Falcon on 4K.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And I told you I on Black Friday they had Casablanca on 4K for $10. So I picked that up. But yeah, I'm sure Maltese looks great as well. But yeah, just a couple other quick notes. The obviously there's a misquoted line from this movie that's never actually stated. Play it again, Sam is not a line in this movie. But where that comes from is that Woody Allen made a movie that was a play on the line. He made a movie called Play It Again, Sam, and that's where people associate with this movie, even though it's not from this movie. And that's and so everything got kind of crossed, in the pantheon. Yeah, even though because he says "Play it, Sam," "Play it once for me, Sam," things like that, but they never say "Play it again, Sam." So it's a Luke, I am your father situation where the line's actually "No, I am your father," but it's not Luke, I am your father, but it's crossed with all the pop culture references and whatnot.
So one of the cool things, I got to jump in with your little fact.
Yeah.
One of the cool things, of course, I think we've talked about this in the past. The very last James Bond movie, they have a direct reference, for instance, with them in their white tuxes and where they're staying and everything.
Sorry, I didn't mean to hit a button on there. Sorry about that.
But yeah, so they have a direct reference to a Casablanca in there from their white tuxes they're wearing to the picture on the wall and everything else.
Oh, for sure. Cool. I was speaking of that, so there's a bunch of stuff online where Steven Spielberg talks about Casablanca. He's a giant fan of Casablanca. He loves this movie, and he's thrown a lot of little things in his movies as well. I think some of the obvious stuff is, look at Raiders. What does the marketplace and the Cairo stuff look like? It looks like Casablanca, right?
Oh my God. Why didn't I realize that? That's so fucking cool.
And that's what it is. He's recreating a little bit of Casablanca there. And, when he finally gets the chance to go to a desert and make a desert movie, of course he recreates Casablanca a little bit, and some of those things.
I don't know. I didn't realize that, but it looked like it came alive. Yeah. Sorry.
Last Crusade. What's the name of the doctor? The chick, Elsa. It's one letter off, but it's his throwback to Ilsa, not Elsa. So that's his little kind of nod to that. Again, not being overt, but
right. But that's so there. Cool. I don't know. I didn't realize that. Yeah.
The actual, Temple of Doom, the opening sequence, it's not only kind of a James Bondy thing, but Harrison Ford's got a white tuxedo on, just like Humphrey Bogart. And, and there's, bands playing in the background. The club kind of looks like Rick's Cafe. And
it does.
Kind of all around. So it's very much like he throws these little things in some of his movies because he's a giant fan of Casablanca. He loves Casablanca, and he talks about it all the time. So there's that. Like I said, Roger Ebert obviously is a giant fan of this movie. He has it in his Great Movies book. He does the commentary on there. This is Leonard Maltin's favorite film. We love Leonard Maltin as well. He's great.
Yes.
This is his number one. He thinks this is the greatest Hollywood film ever made. AFI's top 100 has it currently at number 3 of all time, but just behind. Why did I not have that in front of me? I believe Citizen Kane was always number 1, and then let me see. 10th anniversary. Oh, Godfather was number 2, so that makes sense. But that's a good,
to be right there. Yeah.
Casablanca is a good company,
Yes,
so
it is amongst amazing movies.
But it's constantly in the top 10 of great movies. Yeah, we talked about the Oscars that it picked up, and on IMDb, it's number 46 of the 250 right now, as of currently.
I think Looney Tunes did a Casablanca.
Oh no, they do. Peter Lorre was a big part of Looney Tunes himself, and he used to do voices for Looney Tunes. So yeah, and Peter Lorre was heavily involved in that. A lot of the gangster Bugsy character was kind of based on Humphrey Bogart a little bit. Yeah, Looney Tunes definitely did some Casablanca stuff. Yeah,
that is so cool.
I
didn't realize Peter Lorre was involved with that. But
Peter Lorre was involved with Looney Tunes. Yeah, so but yeah, I didn't have a whole lot besides that. So yeah, we'll just kind of we're a little over an hour, so it's a good time to Chris. Well, I mean, we kind of talked about it, but give us a little bit more about how it just kind of became your favorite movie and why just it's your favorite movie in general.
So I was in English class. Mrs. Call, one of my favorite teachers, and we were studying World War II, and she said we're gonna watch Casablanca. And I was like, what? Why? And at the time, I don't think I necessarily appreciated older movies. Although, with that being said, I did grow up with movies like 12 Angry Men. And I did grow up with movies like It's a Wonderful Life, one of my dad's favorite movies of all time. So it's like I was sort of obviously immersed in that world of older cinema and older movies. But I remember watching this movie in class, and I remember just instantly being swallowed up into that world. And I think that there were key moments, and of course, not even being that young, like not identifying necessarily why I related so much to Humphrey Bogart's character, but I kind of like always admired how cool and kind of like down to earth he was, but at the same time he was kind of badass. Like I could see him.
He's kind of a sarcastic dick when he needs to be.
Yes.
He can be sarcastic. He can be charming. He's fast talking, but he can show the emotion as well. Yeah, he's great.
Right, and so I think and of course, being a nerd, I was far from that. Like I was not the cool, smooth, sarcastic talking guy, although incredibly sarcastic now. But it's like, so I think between that and then like further watches and learning different things like we talked about, like from the cool cardboard plane in there, from learning the refugees were used in this movie, and learning, that iconic song and stuff. And probably, I mean, each time I felt like I got other things, and I even feel like I got something new on this watch.
Yeah.
Especially like with a little lead in that I didn't realize so much in this. The little lead-in we had where we're leading into Rick's cafe, but also the parrot, the blue parrot, where we had these people that were desperate to get out of this country, and you had little deals going on.
Yeah.
And these people felt real, and you could feel their desperation to get somewhere else. So, but and I loved it, sort of the romance aspect of it, but I also loved a little bit of the action and the intrigue in this movie. So between that, I mean, and the obviously 101 probably watches now, it quickly became my favorite movie of all time. And like I said, I own a cool DVD version of it. I own it on VHS. I own a really cool big box edition on DVD. At the time, I don't think we could really afford the Blu-ray of that, but it's really beautiful. Right. And it has like a passport thing for it. Had a neat book kind of went into the information about it. Yeah, so between that and everything, that's why it quickly became one of my favorite movies of all time. Yeah.
No, I think it has a little bit of everything, and yeah, like see, it's got a little bit of espionage and intrigue. You got some good comedic bits in there again, especially with Claude Rains and whatnot, and some of Rick's dialogue. There's some very funny moments throughout the whole thing. There's some nice fun side characters kind of in and out of the movie, like we talked about. Everybody leaves a memory and an impression on you. Everybody that kind of pops in and out of the movie. You got the romance. You've got not much action per se, but there's always stakes closing in on everybody. You feel the stakes, both the global stakes and kind of the stakes for these individual characters. So there's always kind of a ticking clock in the background of things that are going to happen. It's just got those classic Hollywood elements that we love as far as just great old-fashioned entertainment. And I think it just hits on all levels. And we talk a lot about this one pops up on a lot of lists, Chris, of sort of those perfect screenplays. We talk about like this and Back to the Future and whatnot.
Right.
Those ones that just kind of perfectly set up the world that we're living in, the characters that we're at, the locations, the stakes, the foreshadowing and the payoffs, all that kind of stuff. And then I think this is definitely in that category and in the conversation of those movies that kind of do everything it sets out to do pretty perfectly. and it's kind of just an all-around great movie. Yeah, I'm really glad I rewatched this again. It had been a long, long time. It would have been an awkward conversation if I didn't get a chance to, because it's been a minute since I watched it, but I'm really glad I did. Not to say that it's going to immediately jump into my 128 or anything like that. But I'll tell you what, man, as I get older and older, and I'm going to definitely put this in the rotation and start watching it, a little bit more, maybe once a year or something like that. Yeah. And if it definitely has that chance to, because I could see why people just think this is a very just rewatchable, great movie, just a great piece of entertainment. And I really, really enjoyed my rewatch. So I can see why you really dig it, man, for sure. Yeah.
So kind of a segue off of this, I think that obviously we can talk about other Humphrey Bogart movies, but I do want to give a shout out for Treasure of Sierra Madre,
Yeah.
incredible. Across the Pacific is incredible.
The one he won the Oscar for, The Caine Mutiny, is a great movie.
Yes,
I've seen
Caine
that.
Mutiny is amazing.
Yeah, that's a great movie. That came on TCM, actually, when I was over at my parents' house. We were watching a little bit of that, some of the stuff near the end. I missed a good chunk of it, but it was some of the court stuff at the end, the court-martial stuff.
Yes.
But yeah, that movie's great. Really, really good. Yeah, I've seen The African Queen. That one's good. It's been a minute since I watched Maltese Falcon. That's one I need to revisit and go check out as I get more and more into kind of film more of the 40s. But no, he's a hell of an actor, man. And this was the movie, this and the Maltese Falcon, the double punch, because they were within a year of each other.
Right.
If you look at his career in the 30s, he was just kind of a supporting guy. He would always play like a gangster. He's playing a lot of the same roles. He was getting frustrated with his career, which is what Eva was talking about. But the double punch of Maltese Falcon and Casablanca finally got him into that A-list, leading man role, and that's what he did for the rest of his career. So it's pretty cool. This is kind of the big jump off for him, and he becomes a big star for the rest of his career. So. I can see why you like him, man. You can do way worse as far as leading actors to enjoy their filmography. You know what I mean? Like he's got a lot of great movies on this film, for sure.
Yeah.
We'll kind of we'll start wrapping it up with there. But yeah, again, I'm glad you're. Obviously, this would be a weird conversation if we didn't have the Casablanca Kid joining us for Casablanca. That would be really weird.
Yes, it would be very, very weird. Yeah, exactly.
So we had to have
Casablanca Kid. Across my gaming channel, I changed it to that too, and TikTok and all that stuff. Because I was you know what, this is part of who I am.
Well, speaking of that, so any sort of Casablanca plugs you want to get out there, and then we'll get out of here, man. What you got? Anything? I don't have the little banners that Jordan has. I apologize.
No, you're good. Probably one of the biggest things for me, and the biggest thing I'm sort of struggling with, also not only the TikTok kind of growing that, but I've been doing more and more stuff on there. But at Casablanca Kid 84, and also over on Twitch. I've been trying to do more gaming over on there, and just the issue of people are following me, but they don't necessarily have their notifications on.
Right.
Because I gotta basically have a percentage of 3 viewers. Yeah. And also, you guys can follow me on Instagram as well. Hold on. I think that is. That one is Casablanca Kid 84 as well.
Okay.
So that's some of that.
Everything Casablanca. Go follow Chris Scott.
Yes.
That's right.
Man, it was so much fun to do this, dude. Thank you very much.
Oh, no, totally, man. It was my pleasure. Like I said, I'm glad I got a chance to revisit this movie. I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed kind of doing a deep dive into it and really kind of digging into the history of it and the behind the scenes and everything. It was great. As far as here in the channel, if you haven't subscribed already, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell as well, because you never know when we're going live for Wheel of Movies or Podcast League now or anything like that. Yeah.
We have an awesome Patreon, guys. You guys should
patreon.com/movie hero. So make sure you check that out. We've got exclusive podcasts over there, some exclusive tier rankers we did over there. All kinds of exclusive stuff.
I may not obviously be on all these shows, but seriously, you guys do an incredible job, man. I'm glad that you're a part of this channel, dude. I know you sort of joined us sort of a year now?
It's been about a year and a half, almost 2, because the first one I did was almost 2 years ago, actually, because it was right in the middle of COVID, 2021.
Yeah, that's right.
Jordan just put out a post asking for somebody who liked SNL a lot. And so that was when we were doing the SNL show. Speaking of SNL, when we go off the air, because we'll get copyrighted if I play it here, I got to show you the SNL thing they did about the alternate ending of Casablanca if you haven't seen it. It's really funny. Jordan like that I had seen a lot of movies and knew what I was talking about. So I'm glad I got to be a part of it and get to talk movies a lot. So that's always fun.
Definitely, man.
It was a pleasure. As far as the next wheel of movies, we don't have anything set in stone, but possibly about 2 weeks from now, we might be doing a Christmas movie. rumor has it we might be doing Home Alone because it's one of Jordan's favorite movies.
Home Alone
So, because it's actually one of his favorites, it's on the wheel technically, so we can pull the audible and do that. The strong rumor, it's not confirmed. The strong rumor is that we might be diving into a little Home Alone, and Macaulay Culkin just got his Walk of Fame, so why not? Let's
well done, much deserved. Come on now.
Yeah. So we might be doing that, but as for tonight, that'll do it for the Wheel of Movies tonight. We appreciate anybody who tuned in. So for Jordan, for the Casablanca Kid, Chris Scott, I am Austin Pez Howell, and we'll see you next time here on the Movie Hero Network.